Will Grayson?
Yeah.
Was any of the story experience?
I mean, John did in high school write a musical based on his own life.
I could not include him as all a tiny dancer.
Besides that, I don't think there's any autobiography.
There's a little bit of I mean, I would say some of my best friendships went into my half. And there's always autobiographical stuff in the very broadest sense of autobiographical, because I'm the only person that I ever get to be. So I have to steal from myself. Sorry.
Until we come back and see Deepak Chopra, then you can be...
Can I just tell you something real quick? There's a girl wearing a t-shirt that features it's a pink t-shirt with a dragon breathing orange fire, which is a Paper Towns joke.
Okay.
It's that's the shirt that...
The shirt is awesome!
That's the shirt that Margot Roth Spiegelman wears in the first chapter. That's funny. I like that. That made me laugh.
All right. My side, oh my god, my side is totally underrepresented.
No, you got Sarah.
Okay, I was going to say, how about her? Okay, I guess that's Sarah. Hey, Sarah.
Hi. The question was, why are the even number chapters completely without capital letters, proper lead, all that good stuff?
It's mostly because when I started writing the character, my Will...
I can't hear you when you...
I was still nice. Was there a problem? Like, seriously, okay.
Okay, sorry. There a hand went up, which we agreed was going to be the way to jump.
Oh, okay.
So that's why I did. Okay.
Well, then why did they...
I'm sorry, I did. Okay.
Hi. I'm going to speak right into the mic right now. This sounds really weird.
Okay. Isn't it weird you become a valley girl when you try to speak without moving your lips? Alright. My Will is very much a creature of this, like, most of his social interactions are online. And you may not have noticed this, but most people, when they communicate online, they don't use capital letters. I know nobody in this room would ever dream of not using capital letters or proper punctuation. You guys are all strict grammarians, for which we and English teachers are proud. But it just seemed that the way that my Will sees himself is as lowercase. That is his picture. And I think most people, sort of, when they really are just getting themselves out on paper, especially nowadays, or on screen more likely, either in poetry or IMing, they really think of themselves as lowercase. And I think that has an interesting meaning to it, whether it is rebelling against the proper ways of grammar, or whether it is sort of diminishing yourself, or thinking of yourself as diminutive by going lowercase. And so that's something I really want to explore with Will. And the reason his dialogue is all in sort of I am form is that that's the way he sees dialogue. Like that he's grown up in this culture that's the way you interact with somebody. So that was deliberate. A very good added benefit, which I really didn't know until we read our chapters aloud to each other, was obviously it's a good way to delineate the two wills from each other. But that wasn't the reason I did it. The reason I did it was because that's his self-expression.
Another thing I love about the dialogue, and I don't know if this was intentional, but it shows that the way the dialogue is formatted shows that Will, on some level, doesn't make a distinction between IM and IRL conversations, that talking on IM is essentially, in some deep way, just as real as talking. And that's a really sort of contemporary idea. And I would say to people of my generation, or a lot of people of my generation, it doesn't seem as real when you're IMing as when you're talking, but to a lot of us who use the internet a lot, it does. I don't want to make a mistake. All the way in the back, the person who raised their hand made me think his name wasn't. Okay. Hi.
Alright, so I have a slightly irrelevant question to Will Grayson. Will Grayson, because I haven't read it yet. But I was wondering, for John, why the inclusion of cars seems to be in all three of your books.
Why there are cars?
Yeah, like so prominently.
It's just a good way to get people around. I feel that the car is sort of a prominent feature of contemporary America, unfortunately. A lot of people seem to either have them or want them. There are very few people outside of the New York metropolitan area, in fact, who are adults who don't either own a car or aspire to own one. But I guess the reason, like, I name the cars, and I just think that young people get excited about the prospect of having a car because it represents that freedom of being able to go anywhere, and being able to go there quickly.
And not to give anything away, but in Will Grayson, we do have a make-out scene in the back of a bicycle, so it is...
I was trying to think if there are hardly any cars in Will Grayson.
No.
I mean, there's some cars.
But they're not really characters. They don't come to life as vividly as the cars in some of your other...
Yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah. So maybe I've abandoned, because we were writing about a city.
That's true.
Which I hadn't done before.
Yes.
Is it hard to, when writing dialogue, shift from character to character and their voice?
I don't find it hard at all. I mean, which again goes to the strange phenomenon of authors hearing the voices in their heads and transcribing it. But usually that actually fuels me through a scene. I think it's harder to write when somebody's alone and to forward the action with them being alone and not having anything to bounce off of but themselves. Whereas dialogue scenes are much easier for me because there's always some propulsion. Hopefully, if it's a good dialogue scene, there's always a propulsion forward in the dialogue. So again, I can't explain to you how I know how each person sounds and what they're saying, but that is fairly easy for me.
Yeah, for me it's just a huge part of characterization. So if I know the character well enough, it's not hard. And if it is hard, it's a really good indication that something is terribly wrong. And so yeah, that usually when that happens, I think to myself, maybe I should delete this person's existence from the novel. Yes. Yes.
I was just wondering, do you guys try to keep your own Will Graysons to yourselves, or do you ask each other for advice?
We did ask. I mean, we would have conversations sometimes more than advice. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think
It's a good question.
we really, until we actually did the revising part, we really wrote the whole book without commenting on each other's. I mean, except to say that was awesome, and we would read it aloud to each other, which genuinely was true. And I think that really, we had a good sense, I feel, from the first chapters of what each other's Will Graysons were. And I think that the most nervous part of the whole process was that first moment when we read the two chapters aloud to each other, because there was the danger, either A, that one or both of them sucked, or B, that we'd gone off to our own corners and just written the same character and came back and we would have written aloud to each other and be like, oh my god, we've written not just the same boy with the same name, but he's the same guy.
And that was not the case.
That was totally not the case. And I think once we knew that, we felt pretty good about it.
Yeah, I felt the same way.
All right, yes.
I haven't read the book yet, but did you guys fight over who got the even chapters and who got the odds?
No.
No.
I don't even know how that was decided.
Yeah, that's so funny.
God did that.
I think,
Even numbers, so I would really want the even numbers.
I mean,
I really don't even remember how we decided that. It was really important in retrospect.
right. I don't know. I think it might have been after we read our first chapters we decided which one was first and which one was second.
Maybe, yeah.
And you had the best opening line ever. Ever.
It was alright.
But of the two, it was the better one. But I've learned from collaborations, it's really, it's hard because if you go first, that's great because you get to open the book. But if you go second, then you are responsible for closing the book. And so there are pros and cons to both of them. And I've done both, and both of them are very nervous-making. I'd probably prefer going first because the last chapter is always very pressure-intensive, and if you've written the first chapter, you're already done with the pressure-intensive one.
That's exactly how I felt.
Fast.
Yes.
Since it took 5 years to write from beginning to end, were there any references that you made over the course of the 5 years where something wasn't relevant anymore, you had to scrap it and start something fresh?
References we made that weren't relevant anymore? Not really. We don't really write that contemporary, I guess.
Right. There was one reference that was damn funny because we didn't realize it was going to be a reference.
What? I don't remember.
The kid's name, the Sarah Palin.
Oh, there's like a kid. I can't remember. I knew there was. I remember.